Good morning, Algebra 1. So, this week we are starting on our solving equations journey. And actually, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to skip solving one-step equations. And we're moving right into two-step equations. Before we do multi-step equations, which will probably come later this week anyway. But let's start off with the video, and hopefully we can make some connections. And if we have any questions, again, just let me know. Feel free to put a comment on the video, and I will make sure to get back to you. But without further ado, let's get right to it. Alright, Algebra, today we are going to be talking about solving two-step equations, and I hope that by the end of this video, you're able to solve two-step equations in one variable. Yes, there are other equations that have multiple variables as well, but we won't deal with that right now. But first, I want to talk about our key concepts and vocabulary. So here are some steps for solving two-step equations. First off, we are going to add or subtract, undo the b value that we see up in here to both sides. And then we are going to multiply or divide the a value to both sides, and then we're going to check our answers. And if we have equations that are in this form, just a little bit different, we are going to multiply or undo that b value on both sides, and then we're going to add or subtract the a value to both sides. But I do want you to pay attention to something. I'm going to write our order of operations. So it seems like when we are trying to simplify things, we go in this direction. But really, when we are trying to solve for a specific variable, a lot of times we go backwards with this addition or subtraction first, multiplication or division, especially when we've gotten rid of our parentheses and exponents. Notice here how we had to add or subtract first, specifically in that first form. So even when we're trying to solve equations, it's still important for us to think about how can I use the order of operations here to try to help me. So let's do some example problems. Solving two-step equations in the form ax plus b equals c. In this first case, I'm going to add by 13 on both sides. So I get 5q equals, that should be 50. And then I'm going to divide by 5 on both sides, and I get q equals 10. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller of a line. Let's go on to part B. And sometimes I like to draw a line down the equal sign to show that there's two sides. So I'm going to subtract by 3 first. So then I'm left with 2x equals 15. I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides. And I get that x, I'm just going to leave it nice and clean, that x equals 15 over 2. In fact, many times fractions are just a lot easier to write, and they're a lot more precise when we are trying to write answers. Let's move on to part C. So I'm going to add first to eliminate it on the left side. So I can even cross that out over there. And I'm left with 12a equals 144. So now I'm going to divide by 12 on both sides. And I'm left with a equals 12 actually. So those are just a couple examples. I'm going to leave part D for you to do on your own. Now let's try it in the other form and see how things go. So the first thing that I need to do for part A is I need to multiply both sides by -3. When I multiply by -3 on the left-hand side, I actually just cross out the -3. So I'm left with x plus 8 equals +6, because -2 times -3 gives me a positive answer. So now I'm going to subtract by 8 on both sides, and I'm left with x equals -2. Now let's try this one more time. The first thing for part B that I need to do is I need to multiply both sides by 5. And that cancels out my denominator on one side. And I'm left with h minus 3 equals 50. I add 3 to both sides. and I'm left with h equals 53. So let's move on. I believe this is our last slide even. So example 3, write an equation and solve. I need to use my problem solving skills and I need to use my word recognition, number recognition in order to write an equation. So 8 more. So I already know that it's going to be 8 plus 5 times a number. Whenever I have just a number, they want me to represent that with a variable. So this is going to be 5 times my number 5x is equal sign equals negative 62. So now they want me to try to solve that. And let me try to rewrite this in a little bit better of a format because I was a little sloppy. So I have 8 plus 5x equals negative 62. So let me separate both sides. I'm going to subtract by 8 on both sides first. And I'm left with, whoops, not that. I'm left with 5x equals negative 70. And I'm going to divide by 5 on both sides. And x is in fact going to equal negative 14. And then our last example, this time bringing it into a real world equation. So a calling plan charges $10 per minute and a monthly fee of $5.99. How many minutes can a customer talk if they want to pay the bill or want to pay the bill to equal $37.99? So in this case, I know my per minute is going to be my variable here, and I'm going to make that m. So I know that it's y, for example, I'm just writing my equation. Actually, I'm just going to write my total. $37.99 equals 10 cents per minute plus an additional $5.99. Okay, so in this example, I need to subtract by $5.99 on both sides. And I'm going to be left with $32 equals 10 cents a minute. So now I need to divide by 10 cents on both sides. And in fact, that tells me the number of minutes are going to be 320 minutes. So I need to be talking on the phone for 320 minutes in order to pay a bill that is equal to $37.99. But that is all of the examples that I have for this lesson here. So if you have any other questions, feel free to write a question down in the comments section. Feel free to message me on Schoology. Feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel. You can even turn on notifications, that way you know when I post things. But that's all I have for today. So until next time, have a fantastic day.